Being a rabbi is pretty wonderful. Being a parent is pretty wonderful. Being a rabbi who is also a parent is pretty wonderful. Dear friends, as we've heard, this week's Torah portion, Parashat Vayeishev, begins the tale of Joseph and his youthful arrogance that lands him first in a pit and then in Egypt's royal dungeon. But things are about to look up for Joseph. The Pharaoh's prisoner is soon to become the king's second in command. The ladder of Joseph's ascent hangs on his ability to interpret dreams, and Pharaoh has two strange ones. The first of 7 thin cows devouring 7 fat cows, the second of 7 dying ears of corn consuming 7 healthy ears. The king learns of Joseph's skill at interpretation and orders Joseph to appear before him. The Hebrew slave listens carefully to Pharaoh's visions and predicts that the 7 fat cows and the 7 healthy ears signal 7 years of bountiful harvests, and that the 7 dying cows and 7 sickly ears foretell 7 years of famine to follow. Then Joseph advises Pharaoh to appoint a minister of agriculture who will oversee a program of savings during the first 7 years so that no one will starve during the next 7 years. Great idea, Pharaoh says. I appoint you. Thus, Joseph becomes the second most powerful man in the country. Dressed in Egyptian finery, outfitted with all the trappings of royalty, he could easily have forgotten his Hebrew roots, but he doesn't. He remains true to his beliefs, and the rabbis celebrate this. Take a look at your service handout titled Parashat Vayeishev, and we'll do some study together. The first text comes from the end of this week's portion. At that point in the story, Joseph has just been tossed into a prison for a crime he did not commit. As I read chapter 39, verse 20, watch for the seeming redundancy. Joseph's master had him put in prison where the king's prisoners were confined, and Joseph was there in the prison. The verse contains an apparent redundancy in the words that Joseph, quote, was there in the prison. We already know this from the first half of the verse. But anyone who has studied rabbinic commentary knows how the rabbis of old felt about the Torah's seeming redundancies. There's no such thing, they insisted. Every phrase, every word comes to teach us something new. If so, what do we learn from the repetition of Joseph's location, that he was there in the prison? We learn, said our sages, that Joseph was himself while there in the prison. He remained true to his identity. He didn't try to become somebody he was not. Take a look at the next text by the great 19th century Polish chassid, the Ger Rebbe. The verb to be here is used to convey the idea of remaining in existence or not being susceptible to change. Joseph did not change who he was in any of the different places he dwelt. He remained the same Joseph, whether he was Joseph the shepherd or Joseph deputy Pharaoh. The principal test of exile, banishment from one's Jewish home, is to withstand every attempt to change the essence and the very being of what it means to be a Jew. The Ger Rebbe points out that the phrase, "and Joseph was," occurs with frequency throughout his life story. And Joseph was in Egypt, and Joseph was in the house of his master, and Joseph was there in the prison. And despite the fact that wherever he was, he fit right in and grew quite powerful, Joseph never forgot his identity as a Hebrew. Therefore, the rabbis lift up Joseph as the model of one who, though immersed in a foreign culture and a powerful figure within it, remains true to his faith. Joseph's is the first of 2 stories that converge upon us this Shabbat. Because then there's the second story, Hanukkah. And I want to suggest to you that the story of Joseph and the story of Hanukkah share the same important message. Tomorrow night, when we light the first candle in our Chanukiah, many of us will follow the tradition of placing the menorah in the window for all to see. The Talmud and subsequent commentaries record a fascinating debate between the rabbis about this act. Take a look at the next text. Our rabbis taught it is incumbent to place the Hanukkah lights by the door of one's house on the outside. If one dwells in an upper story, one places it at the window nearest the public place. Rabbi Kahana said, Rabbi Natan ben Minyomi expounded in Rabbi Tanchum's name, if Hanukkah lights are placed above 20 cubits from the ground, it is unfit. The commentator Rashi explains, since the eye does not notice anything above 20 cubits, the Hanukkah light placed above 20 cubits will not advertise the miracle of the oil and thus is unfit. The message of these texts is to display proudly one's Jewish identity so that it can be seen. And one final passage. Rabbah said, the Hanukkah light should be placed within the handbreadth nearest the door. And where is it placed? Rabbi Acha, son of Rabbah, said, on the right-hand side of the door. Rabbi Shmuel of Difti said, on the left-hand side of the door. And the law is on the left-hand side. So the Hanukkah lamp shall be on the left and the mezuzah on the right. So you have this wonderful image of every Jewish doorway marked on both sides with symbols of one's Jewishness. Now, in fact, the Talmud affords Hanukkah relatively brief mention. The editors of the Bible deliberately excluded the story of the Maccabees from the canon. And the rabbis, they didn't want to have anything to do with armed revolt. Among the Jewish festivals, Hanukkah technically is considered minor. But in 19th century America, Hanukkah gained greater significance and was promoted as a holiday for Jews to demonstrate pride in their tradition. During the Pittsburgh Convention of the Central Conference of American Rabbis, Temple Emanu-El's own Kaufman Kohler recognized the importance of Hanukkah as an occasion to strengthen Jewish identity at a season of the year when Christianity has special appeal. Kohler appreciated the Hanukkah story's resonance with the realities of his own time, and those realities are no less ours. The Maccabees' victory over the Greek forces of assimilation was much more than a military success. Greek culture was inviting, and Jews were welcomed to participate, but on the condition that they forsake their Jewishness. In many ways, our Jewish community faces some of the same challenges they knew. Though we are able to be both American and Jewish, that's the greatness of America. It isn't always easy. Sometimes we give our Jewishness short shrift. Thankfully, we have Hanukkah, our celebration of religious identity and freedom, and the right to maintain our uniqueness. The story of Hanukkah and the story of Joseph both say to us, let others be who they are, you be who you are. Don't forget the precious heritage that is yours. Celebrate it. That is why traditionally we place the Hanukkah in the window. When we place those candles in the window, we recall publicly the miraculous victory of that small band of rebel Jews over Antiochus's mighty forces and the commitment of a religious minority to hold on to its unique heritage. That's why we display the Hanukkah for all to see. When we light those candles in the window, we say, this is who I am, and I am proud of who I am. Saul, today, in a figurative sense, you've kindled your Chanukiah. And by ascending this bima and leading us in worship, you've placed your Chanukiah in the window for all to see. On it burn the candles of maturity, of hard work and passionate dedication, of innate creativity, of a good sense of humor and the knowledge of how and when to use it. On it burn the candles of kindness, of love for your wonderful family and support for your many friends, of modesty and humility, born of an awareness of both the blessings that are yours and the needs of those less fortunate. And finally, on it burns the candle of personal responsibility to attend to those needs. These are your candles, and you should be proud of them. On this day, which celebrates the passing of Torah from one generation to the next, we celebrate all those generations without whose commitment this moment would never have been. Every Hanukkah candle needs a shamash, one that gives it light, and your parents have been yours. And now, as a bar mitzvah, you become a shamash, a kindler of light for others. Today, you have given light to all of us and so much happiness. We, your Temple Emanu-El family, are so very proud of you. We look forward to celebrating with you all the joys and accomplishments we know will be yours. We love you for who you are and for whoever you are yet to be. And in that love and pride, we offer this prayer of thanksgiving, our Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.